From Cali to Tally, it's time to wake up. WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source, and this is Wake Up War Chant. Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hudjavandi and Corey Clark.
Wake up! Ooh, that felt a little raspy, but let's do it. It's Wake Up War Chant, part of the WarChant.com family. You know the deal. Use the promo code WarChant30 for 30 free days of access to the ultimate Seminole sports source if you're not already a member. But we know that most of you are. But, you know, the few stragglers. Join the family. Rate, review, subscribe to the podcast as well. It means a lot, truly. All of you. It's a big deal. Thanks for all your support. But no one's support means more to me than Corey Clark's. Corey, you here to support?
I'm always here to support you, buddy. I've been supporting you for what? What are we going on, like 15 months now?
Yeah.
I've kind of carried you a little bit. I would call that support.
Oh, man, you do not lack humility, friend.
That's what the people that don't get the sarcasm gene, that don't like have that in their brain, that's what they would think.
Yeah. Hey, man, I'm in Tampa. You are in Atlanta or Tallahassee?
I'm in Atlanta, in beautiful Beaufort, Georgia.
Beaufort. How long does it take you to get from Beaufort to Atlanta proper, like to the Ben Stadium?
I mean, probably, obviously depending on the day, but it's like 31 miles or something like that.
All right. I drove to Sarasota today, or Wednesday. You're listening to this on a Thursday, everybody. What up? Man, it's a far drive. So we went out and caught up with another prospect. The prospect
I was
profiles.
married in Sarasota.
Oh, really? So Shannon got home field advantage on that, huh?
She did, and all my friends had to come down. It was a road trip, and it was almost like an away game. And we got married at the Botanical Gardens in Sarasota under a banyan tree.
Ooh, I love banyan trees. Are gorgeous.
Oh, it's great. It was really hot. I sweated a lot, but it was a little fun night. It was a good time.
I really like Sarasota. I think Sarasota is a very forgotten slice of my home state. We always talk about Miami and, Miami-Dade, Broward County, all that kind of stuff. I think maybe Tampa kind of slips in there, and Jacksonville, Orlando, obviously, the Mouse. But, man, Sarasota, I think Sarasota's got sort of like that it's got like the best of Miami and the best of Tampa without the worst parts of the two states, I feel like. I'm a big fan of Sarasota.
It's legit. Yeah, I agree with you. And the beaches are awesome. Like, they're white sand.
Oh, yeah.
They're not crazy crowded. You got ice cream shops like literally every 40 feet. It's a really cool, nice little part of the state. And a lot of old people. And I love old people, man. They stay out of your way. They're nice. Yeah. Good times.
Low on the crime with the old people being around. So
True.
So do keep tuned to warchant.com. We got lots of recruiting profiles coming down. I think right now Jayon McCluster from Largo High School is up for your viewing pleasure. That should be probably followed up by Lawrence Tafili, the running back out of Pinellas Park. We'll have some with Malachi Weidman. Michael made it down to IMG. I'm going to go to Orlando on Thursday. I think Damori Tate is the name of the young man I'm probably going to do a profile on. So you folks think it might be the doldrum. Somebody poked fun at us. Well, he didn't poke fun. He's one of the guys that constantly, I think, nags about the show. But it's like, you still listen to the show. What's up, buddy? He was talking about the fact that I mentioned the lacrosse team. He's like, oh, it's really lame out there, really slow when they're talking about lacrosse. How about we talk about club basketball, huh, guys? What do you know about that? Speaking of which, I think the lacrosse team actually ended up winning on overtime that night against Arizona State. I don't know how they're doing now, but to not hurt that person's sensibilities, I won't check.
No, absolutely check. I'm actually interested. My feelings are more important than that person's feelings, and I'm legitimately, I guess I couldn't say I'm that interested because I didn't check in the last 2 days to see if they even won that game against Arizona State. But now that you mention it, I'm like, oh, yeah, they were only up by a goal in the third period. Did they hang on and win that bad boy? And where are they now?
Yesterday, apparently, or on Tuesday, we didn't have a show on Wednesday. Sorry about that. They lost to Georgia Tech. Paul Johnson and the Ramblin' Wreck took it to them.
Oh, boy. Yeah. But they beat Arizona State then.
Correct. They did. Yep.
All right. Well, that's not a bad season, right? Is their season over, I assume?
Yeah. They 12-7, valiant effort against the Wreck.
Well, shore up the defense a little bit, gang, for next year.
Well, defense wasn't a problem on Wednesday for Florida State as they wrapped. I don't even know what to call this sort of. What a really weird week this is for Florida State baseball. They had a doubleheader on Tuesday against JU, Jacksonville University. One of those games was a makeup due to weather earlier in the year. It was agreed upon to do the doubleheader in 7-inning games. 11 tipped his cap to JU's coach, called it a class act to agree to, bring his boys over and do the doubleheader and all that kind of stuff. And JU paid the favor back by taking game 2 of that doubleheader, which was obviously not a good thing for Florida State as they need to start stacking as many wins as they can. I mean, not even so much for their NCAA tournament appearance fate, more so than keeping these streaks alive that mean a good deal to a lot of people involved with the program. And then Wednesday, is this rock bottom for this program in the last, the tournament hopes, they lost to Stetson, folks. They lost to Stetson 1-0. They got no hit.
Right.
Thankfully, I think all my stock went through. I think I sold all of it in time before this crash happened. But this is, I just don't know, where do you go from here? How many more rally around 11 or rally around the guys that laid it on the line before us? We don't want to be the guys that are, at what point, just like the 2018 football team, at what point is it just, we've seen all you've got, this is what you are, and unfortunately, this is what you are?
I think rock bottom was the loss to Boston College on the Sunday to lose the series and lose whatever it was, 8-0. And then there's been a lot of rock bottoms. I don't know that a midweek game against Stetson is that. It's embarrassing. It's an indignity that it's hard to live with. That's the first time Florida State's been no hit since 1993. And by the way, I say this as somebody that's an independent, basically an independent contractor covering Florida State. I love, in fact, Tim Linnefeld's one of my best friends. He works for Florida State. Seminoles.com, I get a lot of information from Seminoles.com. But if people want to know why you should subscribe to War Chant or any other, War Chant, I'm not going to pimp any other name. Seminoles.com had a write-up of the game. Didn't mention that they were no hit. Hey, you're a Florida State fan. You want to check out to see how the baseball team. Oh, they lost 1-0. That's too bad. Let me check the box. Oh, they didn't get any hits because that's not mentioned in the copy. And again, it's PR. That's what it is. That's what those people's jobs are. But as a journalist, as somebody that considers myself a journalist for 20 years now, the way this avenue is going, the way this industry is going, there are going to always be war chants, we hope, and we always hope there's going to be a Tallahassee Democrat, although a New Orleans newspaper just folded. Man, you don't want a world in which you read a game story and it doesn't mention, because they're paid by the school, it doesn't mention the fact that they were no hit. It just isn't in the story at all. Anyway, I get it. That's part of the job. But at War Chant, we'll tell you that they were no hit. And we'll tell you on Wake Up War Chant that it's embarrassing, because it is. I mean, that's just, look, they're probably going to obviously make the NCAA tournament. I mean, they did drop. They've dropped now to, but hey, I said probably. Yeah. I don't know. They were up in the low 50s. Now they're in the high 60s. They lost the game to Jacksonville, leaving the bases loaded in the ninth to lose by a run, because why would you want to get a big hit? And then they go on the road to Stetson and all they need is one hit. They get first and second, nobody out in the 8th inning. And look, I'm a big fan of 11. I appreciate what he's done at Florida State. I love the culture, and I don't know that another coach would have coached differently. But they get the first 2 runners on in the 8th inning on a hit by pitch and a walk. And then he bunts them over to second and third, which normally, I guess, in a 1-run game, you could say, okay, that's a solid play, I guess.
I'm fine with that.
You don't have a hit. Your team doesn't have a hit. You only got 6 outs to play with. Don't give them one. Don't give him an out. Make him go earn an out. Maybe the kid will hit somebody else, and he'll walk in runs. Don't give away outs when you only have 6 left. And the guys in your lineup have proven repeatedly they can't find any grass with a knocked ball. They cannot hit a ball that finds any part of the grass for a hit. So why are you giving them an out? Anyway, they moved to second, third with 1 out. Next kid pops up, because why wouldn't he? And then Jonathan Foster strikes out. There you go. There's your game.
Pinch hitter.
Great. You got no hit. You got no hit by Stetson. First time since 93 Florida State's been no hit. First time since the 80s, Stetson's no-hit anyone, and they happen to do it to a Florida State team that's still trying to fight to make sure it gets in the postseason. Just an embarrassing couple of days, but it's an embarrassing couple of days. It's a dumb sport. It's a goofy sport sometimes. It doesn't mean Florida State. Look, I don't expect them to go to Louisville and sweep the Cardinals. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't see that happening. I don't even expect them to sweep Richmond this weekend, because why would you expect anything of this Florida State team, as up and down as it is? I just don't know if it's rock bottom, because they still do have 31 wins. They have an outside chance of getting to 40, a very, very, very outside chance. Hopefully they just get in the tournament, and we'll go from there. But as I said on the first show of this week, you had 6 games this week. To be confident that you're getting into the postseason, you needed to win 5 of them. Well, right now they played 3 of those games, and they're 1-2. And they've scored 5 runs in 3 games, and they just got no hit. That's just an embarrassment. Stetson doesn't no-hit anyone. Stetson's RPI is in the 200s. They have a losing record. It ain't like they were pitching their ace, and you went out there and got no hit. So whatever. I hope somehow they can find some magic, because it's 11's last season. But it's been, other than that, wouldn't you say it's been maybe the most forgettable baseball season of our lifetimes? Just forgettable, just gross.
That sounds accurate. What if I told you the winning pitcher, he was credited with his first win of the season, he now improves to 1-8 on the year?
Well, what are you going to do? Did you get that from Florida State's release?
I'm looking at the box score. He struck out 6 in 4 innings. Florida State as a team struck out 13 times. It's
an embarrassment, man. It's an embarrassment. You get 27 outs. You struck out half of them. You didn't even put the ball in play. And we are, again, I've said this before, we are in the era of, hey, a strikeout's just an out. No big deal. Again, though, the more you put the ball in play, isn't this a crazy concept? The more you actually put the ball in play, the better chances you are at getting a hit. That's how baseball works. If you put the bat on the ball and send it forward, every now and again it'll sneak through a hole. It might land over a fence. That's the beauty of when you put the ball in play. But this team strikes it like it's his job. That's just what they do. That's 4 innings in a third of not even making contact. So really, they had 4 2/3 innings of the defense having to make plays, because Florida State gave them the other half of the game without getting a hit, but not even hitting a ball. So, whatever. It's just what they do. But you prove me wrong, kids. Prove me wrong. Go and make some magic happen in May and June. But this is a 6-game homestand where you really needed to win, because none of these wins help your RPI. The only thing that happens is when you lose, it devastates your RPI. And right now they're 1-2 in games that they really needed to win, coming off a series when they got beat by Pitt 11-0. So whatever.
It sounds just way too sports talky and lazy, and so I do apologize. But where's the pride?
Yeah.
We can't lose to Stetson after we just lost to JU. We can't get that's the weird thing. I just wonder where's I don't want to say where's the leadership at, but just someone, make a hit, somebody do something. Good grief. You can borrow the tagline from Taggart. He ain't going to copyright it on you. He's not going to charge you royalties. Just somebody do something. Good grief.
And again, it's not, baseball is a weird sport. Sometimes you hit a lot of balls right at people, and that happens. And no-hitters, the guy that pitched the no-hitter for the A's the other night, he had a guy leaping over a wall to make a catch. He had another guy diving down the right field line to make an incredible catch. He got plays behind him. And I don't know. I didn't watch that game. Maybe Jacksonville was diving all over the field to make great plays. But I do know Florida State, they struck out 13 times.
Yeah.
And you gave them an out on a bunt. So really, they only had to get 13 outs by themselves, because it's don't bunt when you can't hit. Hopefully the kid that Zach bunted, Tim Becker, maybe he bloops one down the line for a double. Why just give an out when why give away an out when you only got 6 left, and the guys on your team have shown repeatedly that they haven't been able to put the ball in play, and they certainly haven't been able to get a hit. and it's crazy to me to sack bunt in that spot. But who cares? Sack bunt or not, where are they going to get? They just can't hit. They didn't hit, and yeah, it's an embarrassment. It's one game. They play 60 of them, so you don't want to put too much stock in it. They've had a lot of rock bottoms with Boston College and Pitt, and then the 7-13 in a 20-game stretch. They've had some ugly moments, but if somehow, some way, maybe this will be like a light switch goes on or something.
Stop it! No,
I know. So. I'm just saying it. Maybe they realize, man, this is embarrassing. Like, we can't just keep our heads in the sand and say, oh, it's baseball, things happen. We just got no hit on a Wednesday by Stetson, by a guy that was 0-8. I mean, he only threw 4 innings, but he was 0-8. And we got no hit by that gang, that group that's under 500 and whatever, the Atlantic Sun. We just got no hit by them. That's just an indignity that we can't live with. Let's actually go try to get better. I don't know. Let's have some pride. It used to be, man. And again, I'm the old person. I get it. I know my age. I know how old I am, and I know I sound older than even I am. But I used to remember when hitters would get embarrassed to strike out. Like, it was an embarrassment. Joe DiMaggio struck out like 360 times in his career. Now, he wasn't facing 98 coming out of the pen like everybody does now, but it was important to him to make contact with the ball. And now these guys, that just the way the sport is, it's okay if they strike out 13 times in a game. It shouldn't be. That should be embarrassing. But I don't, who knows?
I'm so
happy. 2 strikes, shorten up. Shorten up with 2 strikes and put the ball in play.
You are as upset as I want to be, and you're just so eloquently just stating everything. This is great, Corey. I've like foisted upon all my anger and thoughts and angst into a much more palatable form. And I think we're all better off for having listened to that. But yeah, that's all we got for you. 3 months ago, I thought that maybe the former club baseball captain, Tim Becker, was going to hit the walk-off hit to put Florida State into maybe the championship series in Omaha, or maybe get them to Omaha. And on a Wednesday night, we couldn't even let my guys swing the bat to maybe, stop the no-hitter against 20 and 26 Stetson. But Friday's another day. Richmond comes to town.
Got something for the Spiders.
Yeah.
The Spiders are going to pay.
Yeah. Hey.
And again, let me just say this real quick. We can blame coaches all we want. I get it. We have plenty of – the sample size is enormous for Mike Martin Jr., and it's even bigger for Mike Martin Sr. So we can get on to them. That's fine. I blame these dudes, man. Like, Mike Martin Jr. and Mike Martin Sr., their philosophies work, and they have worked forever. So I just blame these players, man. Like, at some point, you're right. Have some pride. Field, number one, and don't strike out. Just try to go a game without striking out once. Just try it. Take something off when it's 2 strikes. Be aggressive early in the count. Whatever you have to do to not strike out, let's try that. So, yeah, you're right. I didn't even know I was this mad until I started talking about it. But it's like, it looked like, okay, as bad as this season had been, Florida State standards-wise, it's like, okay, well, they won some games they had to win. They won some series. They beat Clemson. Everything looks okay. It looks like they're going to make the tournament now. Thank heavens, because what an indignity it would be for Mike Martin to not make the tournament in his final season. And then this team goes out, loses to Jacksonville, and gets no hit by Stetson. So you can't even feel good about him anymore. And it's just it's a bit of a bummer. And I would like them to maybe not do that anymore. Just let 11 go out with his head. Just let him go out in the NCAA tournament, if nothing else. Just let him do that.
I want to just see like 11 on a whiteboard, just write things like Florida State and baseball and Seminoles and be like, none of these have a K in it. We don't need to keep striking out, and just throw the marker on the ground and walk out, and then they take the field. I think if anyone wants to get that message to 11, he can take that. He can use that as a rally point, and then Kyle Peterson and Eduardo Perez can talk about it all June long when they're in Omaha. But I did sell all my stock, so I will sleep all right. Hopefully they will rally. Hey, Corey, we're going to start talking Renegade Express. A lot of questions, but was there something else that was on your mind that involves stuff outside the Florida State stratosphere, but yet still involves the Florida State stratosphere?
What does that mean? You're being vague. What are you talking about? Are you talking about my speeding ticket?
No, I didn't
No,
know
that
you
doesn't involve Florida State.
That has nothing to do with Florida State. What's going on with my guy Jimbo Fisher? Is he not learning his lessons? Is he still committing the same sins as an Aggie as he was as a Seminole?
Oh, I don't know about any of that. I do know that the NCAA released their APR scores for the 2017-2018 calendar year, so or the school year. So it's basically 2017 football season, which was Jimbo's last. And Florida State scored a 922, which is an embarrassment. 930 over, what's the stretch? 3 years, 4 years? I can't remember what
I think it's 3.
Yeah, if you're under 930 for a 3-year stretch, you face sanctions. So they scored 922 his last year, which is like literally in like the Prairie View A&M neighborhood. They're overall over the last 3 years, counting 2015,
Sorry, it's 4 years.
17.
I apologize, Corey.
4 years.
4 years.
Okay,
sorry.
So 14 to 17, their APR is 936, which is the lowest in the country of any football program. Lower than San Jose State, lower than Tulsa, lower than Akron, lower than any FBS football program, and that is embarrassing. It's just embarrassing. I don't even know how else to describe it. A 922 in Jimbo's last year shows you how much he's checked out, but a 936, holy moly! And it just jibes with what we heard near the end of his tenure, that there was players weren't asked to go to class. Nobody cared if they went to class. Tutors were ignored. Kids didn't show up to be tutored. They didn't show up for their tutoring appointments. Remember when Taggart took over and met with the faculty, they gave him a standing ovation when he said, "I'm going to make sure my kids go to class and sit in the front." And he got a standing ovation for that, which said all you needed to know about what the last regime was doing. And again, and I wrote this on a post on War Chant, it's not Jimbo Fisher's job to recruit rocket scientists. He's not recruiting guys that, you don't win. Northwestern doesn't ever play for the national championship. Jimbo's job isn't to have great students. Jimbo's job was to win football games with great football players. But if I completely am under the mindset that there is a correlation. If a kid doesn't care enough, if he'll say, you know what, I'm just not going to go to class this week or this month, and I'm going to skip my tutoring sessions because I don't care to do it. I don't have any pride in that stuff. And I know my coach isn't going to hold me accountable if I do. I think that stuff seeps onto the field, man. I do. I think that kind of mindset seeps onto the field. And I think when you talk about a culture problem, when you're last in the country in APR, when Texas Tech is laughing at you, that's bad news, man. And I think all that played out on Saturdays the last 2 years. You had a team with no pride. You had a team that did not hold anybody accountable, no leadership, just a bunch of grossness. And I don't think it's a coincidence that they were even worse off the field than they were on the field. By the way, Clemson's third in the country. So you can do both.
All right, are you done selling the name of John James Fisher?
Well, and the thing is, it's definitely Jimbo Fisher's fault because I think he let them get away with it. I don't think Willie Taggart would let them. In fact, I know Willie Taggart would not just let a kid skip class for a week. It really does mean something to them. And they really do go on. The coaches go to the classrooms to check to make sure the players are there. He doesn't send a GA, and the GA is scared to tell Jimbo because Jimbo might bark at him that he doesn't care or however that used to happen, the hierarchy and how that would go up the chain of command. There are coaches that go into the classrooms to make sure the players are there, number one, because it does matter to Willie Taggart. But also, I guess it just shows you who was calling the shots really in the Florida State Athletic Department. How does that go on, period? Like, who was Jimbo accountable to? Who at Florida State was embarrassed enough by what the head coach of the football program was doing that they stopped it? Because every other school, every other sport on campus, literally every other one gets good to very good marks. The basketball team had 1,000. The basketball team's above average. But at football, because it was, who knows how that worked. They just were allowed to do whatever they wanted, and Jimbo Fisher was not held accountable. But how do you hold him accountable? He's the highest paid guy in the state. If it becomes a battle between Wilcox and Fisher, you know who's winning that battle. So anyway, but I do think there was nobody above him that was holding him accountable, and that's a problem too. And I would think Florida State fans, I know it's all about wins and losses. I get it. But I'm going to ask you, Aslan, because you're a Jimbo Fisher fan, I get it, but you're also a Florida State alum.
Jimbo
is that embarrassing?
Everything.
Is that embarrassing to you to be the worst in the country and to be like 2 spots ahead of Prairie View?
When you put it like that, absolutely. I'm not too bothered by it because I can always explain things away in my head when it comes to Jimbo. But, yeah, when you do put it under the sort of guise, and it's not framing it, it's the facts that there's 36 teams and they're dead last. It's absolutely embarrassing. It plays into the stereotype that the university is nothing but a football school, despite the fact that, there's all sorts of legacy kids these days that can't get into Florida State now because it's actually really hard to get into Florida State because it's a really solid academic institution, man. We're not just an academic school with a football problem or whatever have you. But yeah, it takes more than this. Listen, if it stays bad like this, actually I shouldn't say that because I don't know how I would take it. But obviously it all falls at Jimbo's feet. But I do wonder how it does get that bad. I would figure it has to be just more than him mailing it in. There has to be all sorts of other levers being not pulled or whatever to get these kids in the class or get their grades up. Just give people an example here off the NCAA website. So you've got 85 kids on scholarship. So people might want to wonder, so 930 is where you have to be, correct, Corey, as you stated?
Correct. Over a 4-year stretch, you have to be 930 or above to not face sanctions.
Right. So people might think, well, how would you get below that? So here's how this would get you 1,000th of a point under the APR sort of calculation, or actually 1 point when they factor it in. So it's literally they just divide it by and they get a percentage, and then they, instead of saying 92.9%, it's 929. But anywho, so 75 of your guys are all good. 75 players finish the term academically eligible, and they stay for spring. But if you got 3 guys that stick around for spring but are actually ineligible trying to get their grades back up, you get dinged. And then say you have 5 players that left the institution and they're not academically, and 5 that leave the institution but are academically eligible. So there's good grades, but they're just 5 kids, say Amir Rasul, Nasir Upshur, for example, that are just like, we're gone, my grades are good, but I'm leaving. So you can have 5 kids do that, and then you can have 2 guys just totally mail it in and dip out on the program and be like, my grades suck, I'm leaving here. If that all happens, 75 guys nailing it, killing it, crushing it, 3 guys that are iffy but are sticking around to try to get their grades up, 5 guys who leave in good academic standing, and 2 guys who decide to leave while their grades are in terrible shape, you'll be at a 929. So that doesn't sound, that sounds kind of like I don't know, I would imagine that's like the makeup of most programs, just in terms of pure attrition there. You're talking about 7 guys leaving your program. I would think if 7 guys leave your program, probably more than half of them are not doing well in school. But again, I don't want to make excuses. To Corey's point, it is embarrassing. And that's one thing that Willie has, as Corey mentioned, obviously got a standing ovation by the faculty by emphasizing it. Some people might want to poke fun at it. I think I made fun of it almost in a previous Renegade Express. Like, hey, we're only a few weeks away from getting the APR results, and we'll be able to cheer about how good we're doing in school. But yeah, that's important, man. I really do think, to what you're saying, you can be so focused on playing ball and I want to get to the league and all that sort of stuff that who cares about grades? I'm not going to go to class. Man, there's only so many minutes in the day, so many hours in the day for you to focus on football and try to get better. Like, you're only going to get so much better at football. You either have it or you don't have it, that, yeah, if you're not going to go to class, man, that is going to affect, I think, your overall performance. It's going to affect the character of the kid in the locker room, and it's going to bleed on to other kids in the locker room, and it's going to be a problem for the program. So I'll admit it, man. I do think I do probably, obviously, maybe to a large degree, defend Jimbo, maybe too much, or maybe I don't accept the quote-unquote mess that Willie inherited. This is a rational, practical, this is, yeah, man, you can hold this to the light and be like, look, this is a problem. We need to fix this before we can start worrying about making it into the playoff. And hopefully it does sound like Willie has gotten things on the right track and is stressing the importance of that. Because, yeah, man, you got to do it all. If Clemson's doing it all, I mean, you can do it all. You can go to class too, man. They're going to Arizona and everywhere in between, and San Francisco. You can go to Dodd Hall and Diffenbaugh Building and everywhere else that I went to class at Florida State. All right,
but real quick, like what are the odds that you have a kid that just decides he doesn't want to go to class or isn't? Look, number one, like Florida State is tied with Bethune-Cookman, which this isn't a shot at Bethune-Cookman and the people that go to school there. It is a look. Florida State has so many more resources than Bethune-Cookman academically.
Oh yeah.
For these football players to stay eligible, for these football players to get good grades. It is all at their disposal. You should not be rolling with the HBCUs because they just don't have the resources that a school like Florida State does. Florida State devotes a lot of money and a lot of time to try to keep these kids not only eligible, but keep them on pace to graduate, have them get good grades, have them get good jobs after their football career is over. That's part of the deal at a school like Florida State. So for you to be wallowing in the neighborhood of an HBCU that has none of that is just an abject failure. And I think more importantly for our purposes, because we're a sports talk show, man, we're not an academic talk show. We're not an APR show. What does it say about what kind of character does a kid have that decides I'm not going to go to school for 2 weeks? How does that manifest itself on a football field? That type of person that with no accountability and no sense of responsibility, no sense of pride in, hey, I get this opportunity. Let me try to go make. And I know part of a lot of NCAA football, it's a bit of a sham. They don't really care if these kids are educated. A lot of them just care if they stay eligible. But still, you have this opportunity and you have all this help. And you know what's expected of you. It's all laid out there. And you just say, I'm not doing it. But you're supposed to be dependent on a Saturday? Like, that's the kind of kid that you're trying to depend on, is a kid that just straight up says, I'm not going to class because I don't care to? Like that, are you recruiting those types of kids? Or are you developing them to be that way? That's what you wonder. And that, at the end of Jimbo's era, is what, number one, when you look at the draft numbers, that is stark what happened with the fall off there. But then also this too. I think it just that's a correlation, man. I don't think it's happenstance. I don't think it's coincidence. I think you get kids that don't have any pride in what they do off the field. Well, you know what? They might not have pride about what they do on the field. And I didn't see a lot of pride these last 2 years from Florida State football players in any avenue. And I think when Willie says that, a lot of people, including me sometimes, I'm a cynic just like everyone else. You want to roll your eyes and say, all right, are you recruiting, Boy Scouts, or are you trying to recruit guys that can get to the next level and can win football games? But there is a correlation. Get some guys that want to be here, want to, number one, practice hard, play hard, but also do the things they have to do off the field and take some pride in themselves. A guy like Jaden Large Woodby, that's a guy that can help turn around a program, man. You need more of those guys. You just do. I know there are not a ton of them, but you need to try to you just need to try to find those guys that really do take pride in everything they do. Because if you have somebody that takes pride in everything they do, or most everything they do, they will definitely take pride of what they do on the practice field. And you haven't seen that a lot. And just, it's gross. But I do also hope with Jimbo, I hope this is enough of an embarrassment to him that he does change his ways too. And he doesn't have this happen at Texas A&M. Whatever he has to do, whatever he has to do to make it known to his football players that they are expected to go to class and get good grades, I hope he does it, just for their sake. Anyway, I'm off my soapbox.
How isn't that part of your performance bonus? Like, I would, how is APR not factored into? I mean, maybe for some programs it is, but I don't think it's.
No, man. If you get to a bowl game, that's what matters.
Yeah, win 6 games.
Like what look, man. Jimbo just put together the worst APR of any football team in the country over the last 4 years, and my dude has a $75 million contract. So we know what's important. We get it. We're pragmatists here. We're realists here on Wake Up War Chant. We know the drill, but at least get some guys with a modicum of pride that want to do well off the field, because I do think, like you said, that bleeds into everything, and that bleeds into the practice field. Whether it's recruiting different kids or getting those kids that everybody's recruiting, getting them to buy into what you're trying to sell. And I just think Jimbo got really, really lax with that, to the point that it really hurt the program.
Yeah. I will say this. Check out the video, and this isn't a shameless plug. Check out the video that we just did, Michael and I, with Jayon McCluster from Largo High School, and I think you'll get a good glimpse. I don't want to point anybody out. I just listen to him talk. Listen to his interview, the things that he harps on, the things that seem to be important to him, and then just think about the interviews that you've heard for the last 2 or 3 years from maybe some players on the team now that are still here.
Well, and also think about, like I said, Lars Woodby. Think about Akeem Dent. Those are the guys. When Willie talks about that, I genuinely think that's the truth, man. Akeem Dent, like we talked about, like I pointed out that one open practice, he was calling out plays before they were run, saying, I know what play that was because he noticed the hand signal that Kendall Briles was using. Man, that stuff matters. Like, it's not just roll your eyes. Who cares if he's good at science? If you take personal pride in learning, in wanting to learn, man, that bleeds into every walk of life, everything you do in life, and that's the kind of guys. You can't have a whole team of them. There's 85 guys. I get it. You're not going to have Einsteins everywhere. But you also don't want just guys that don't give a flip. Because if you don't give a flip about academics, if you say, you know what, man, I'm just not going to class. I don't care. Who cares? What I know coach doesn't care. Well, then again, that just it leads you down a bad road. It leads you down a bad road. And I do think these guys should be paid. I'm not on that. I don't think a scholarship is enough. I'm not starting that conversation. I'm not one of those people. I think part of this is perverse. I think a lot of these kids obviously are recruited only for their athletic ability, and it can be hard for them to compete in the classroom with, like you said, an average student is a 3.7, and they're here solely for the athletic. I get all that, but they also have all the resources in the world, and they are smart kids, a lot of them, and they have the ability to get good grades, and they have everything at their disposal. You just hope they use it and care about it. And if they do, I bet you they're pretty good on the field on Saturday too.
Conspiracy theory. What if the professors all went rogue and weren't part of the program anymore and weren't giving kids grades to make them pass? And Jimbo's like, that's why I'm leaving. I'm kidding.
Once they saw like the Louisville game,
no, that's
like, you know what, man, you're going to get down 62-3.
Oh,
you know what? I'm not passing these kids anymore.
Yeah. Hey, Corey, we're at 40 minutes, and we haven't even taken one single question.
Let's go. Let's fly through. I apologize, everyone, for that rant.
No,
I know it's bothered. I know it's long-winded, and I apologize and holier than thou.
No, dude.
You're listening to someone that legit had a 2.7 in college. Yeah. So who am I to talk about other kids trying hard? I didn't try hard, but then look at me now. I kind of landed right in the middle.
Hey, Corey, this is producing on the fly. Turn your microphone down a notch because you're blowing me out, which is good, though. We want to hear you more so than me, but I think people are going to be like, yeah, there you go. There we go. Now we're good.
I was yelling, and I was yelling way too much.
No, that's fine. Now you're all motivated. All right, here we go. So I asked people, have you seen this list? We'll probably talk about it. Share your thoughts. The list being the one that Willie Taggart from the Columnist in South Carolina. I also asked about the 1993 class. Was it the best of all time? And have we expended all our football takes, or should we create more rather than Thronesing it? Just kidding. We're always going to Thrones it. So those are the questions I asked the people, and here we go. BC Knowles 16 replies simply with, screw that list. Bimini Bound. Since everyone loves new logo and uniform talk, did you guys see that USF abandoned the new logo to go back to the Bowl U and reverted back to the colors that the fans and alumni wanted? Should Knoll Nation just let it go? Great work as always. Oh, the Wolf should have gotten a simple "see you later, buddy," or "sorry you just lost your ear charging into the army of the army of the dead to defend us all." Yet Jon Snow hugs and thanks Sam the coward that retreated first in the battle and ruined Jon's relationship with his aunt. That's one way to look at it. I didn't know. Yeah. I didn't know that USF changed their colors and their logo and stuff. But if that's the case, that hurts, man. That hits me in the feels. I mean, what
they changed from green and gold or whatever they are?
I don't know. Maybe just maybe a different shade.
Oh, all right. Why would they do that?
Because their fans wanted the old stuff, the Jim
Who
Levitt
even
days.
knows what South Florida's old stuff was? It had always been green and gold?
I'm saying maybe it was a different shade. It's always been garnet and
Oh.
gold, but it hasn't really looked like garnet and gold in a long time, right?
Man, how many fans are around from USF's old days? 11? That's crazy that they would listen to those fans, but then Florida State wouldn't listen to their fans that have been around for decades.
Yeah, some of the headlines. USF abandons unpopular new logo, adopts Bull U design. USF changes logo back to Bull U after months of backlash. Yeah, apparently their
so they just did it. They had
No.
just changed it to something new.
They changed. I don't know exactly when they changed. A new logo was introduced in September 2018. It cost nearly $50,000 to design it.
Yeah, look, I think I like the old logo better. I know people got tired of.
Oh, you're talking about
hearing
Florida State?
it.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know. I can't even tell you what South Florida's logo is. I assume it's like a bull, like a Colt 45.
Well, no, so
beer can.
the old logo that they've now gone back to, it's literally it's the letter U with horns on the U to make it look like a bull. That's the Bull U. And then the new logo looked like Merrill Lynch. It just said USF with like a full-size bull next to it. It looked like a stock broker logo or whatever. So they that was the new logo, and then they went back to the U with the horns that we've all grown accustomed to over the years following South Florida football.
Sure. Yeah. Well, all those great moments watching South Florida athletics. Yeah, man, I would like Florida State. I think Florida State should maybe listen to their fans, but they don't. Not Florida State. None of these schools do. I do think that, it was obviously a money grab. They got money from Nike to change the logo and I guess change the color. Again, much like the lack of home and home with Boise, like true home and home, I think it was short-sighted, but, who am I? It's easy for me to just discount millions of dollars that the school got. But yes, I do think they could go back to the old logo. In fact, if they went back to the old logo now, Aslan, don't you think that would make them more money? Because people would go back to buy like we got access to the old logo again. Let me go buy these.
Absolutely.
If you're a school, wouldn't you every 7 years just switch the logo back and forth and just make your fans buy more and more of the gear?
Maxwell Gibbs. Sorry, Corey. I disagree that the 93 class is the best in school history. In my opinion, it's the 2012 class. Now, this is for the both of you. What's your take regarding the Florida-Miami game that's set to take place for the first time in a while? In the past, I've always rooted for Miami to win these games, but this year I believe that it's in the best interest for Florida State that Florida beats Miami. I say this because Manny Diaz has gotten off to a great recruiting start so far. The last thing anyone wants is for him to gather any more momentum. As for Mullen, we all know he's the goofy coach. He put an adjective between there. I'm not going to read it. Who tries to be hip but fails miserably. End of the day, there's nothing to fear with him, but there's just something about a Miami head coach getting momentum that concerns me. Might be in the minority when it comes to this, but this is what you get to talk about when there isn't much to talk about. That's a good take, Maxwell. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't fear. Like, do I fear a rejuvenated Miami? I'm starting to think that you're becoming vindicated, Corey. I know Ira and Jeff kind of give you some grief on headlines because you always laugh and scoff at Miami being back, like it's never going to happen. I mean, you're pretty steadfast. Like, you don't think Miami's ever going to get back to what they were.
Correct. Well, no. I mean, I don't know that anybody could get back to what Miami was back in the day. But again, even back in the early 2000s, my point has always been in the early 2000s, Miami had the best program in the country. Incredibly fertile recruiting ground. But back in 2001, like Alabama hadn't even started any big renovations to their football facilities. Alabama had better facilities than Miami, obviously, because everybody did, but it was just a few degrees better. Same with Florida State. This was before the football mansion, IPF, renovated locker room stuff that all these schools do now every 2 or 3 years. What happened was Miami got so far behind. It used to be, it was a point of pride. Like, yeah, we practice on what's essentially a high school football field, and we have a weight room that's also a Gold's Gym. where we only get access. It's only open from, we only get it from 8 p.m. to midnight because we have to, there's other people in there. Whatever they took pride in about the lack of facilities that they had back then, it was just a matter of degrees of how much worse they were. They were like maybe 30% worse than the rest of the country. Well, now they're 80% worse than the rest of the country. And if you're Amari Cooper and Miami's recruiting you, or Dalvin Cook for that matter, and Miami's recruiting you, and Alabama's recruiting you, and Florida State's recruiting you, and you see the difference. Number one, they have stadiums on their campus, and they have people at their games. That helps.
Real live
but
human beings.
Alabama has a chocolate fountain. Miami has nothing. Miami had the Nevin Shapiro cafeteria for who knows how long. Like, their facilities are so far behind everyone else that I always they're never going to – that race has gotten so far in front of them that they can't catch up. Back in the 80s when they became Miami, and through the 90s when they had some pretty good years, even to 2001, 2002, the facility race in this country wasn't that big a deal. But now it's become a huge deal, and Miami is so noticeably far behind that I don't know that they can ever catch up and be truly relevant again, unless they make some crazy adjustments to what they've been doing.
With all that said, I don't want to pick sides in this battle. I wish for mutual assured destruction between the both programs.
Sure.
But if I have to choose, I don't want Florida to get any momentum. I think Miami will undo itself. I think Florida State's got a better shot at knocking Miami off this season. So let them represent for the ACC or what have you. I'm nervous about Florida and Dan Mullen. I mean, there were limitations I thought there. I think the whole thing was Willie was going to be so charismatic. It was going to be hard for a lot of kids to pick Dan over Willie. But with the way 18 went, it was hard to believe in that I don't want to give Florida any momentum of belief. No.
I got you.
I want to.
But look at it. Like, Willie Florida State had as good or better recruiting class than Florida this past year, right? Even with what happened on the field.
No, there were a few spots ahead of Florida State. I mean,
it was equal, right? It wasn't like they were 3 and Florida State was 26,
right?
And then this year, look at what Florida State's doing. So I do think that's still playing out. But again, it would really help if you started winning some football games. And by the way, Maxwell Gibbs, you can have your opinion, but you're wrong. 1993 is by far the best recruiting class. 2002 had Jameis, which was awesome, and it had a couple other guys, Aguayo. But holy moly, that 93 class is loaded, and 2012 wasn't close because I did my foolproof system, and we all know that you can't argue with that.
I really feel like we could talk about that topic forever. That was a really good question, Maxwell, by the way. I'm sure we'll dive into that question as the season approaches.
Well, don't you think Florida State fans, though, would rather – I don't know, man. It's hard. I know it's trying to pick between Satan and whoever, Bin Laden, but for Florida State fans.
I think Maxwell is from South Florida. I think if you're from South Florida, you're going to probably be less hurt or less angry if Florida wins than Miami, just because you have to deal with that fan base.
Don't you think by and large, Florida State fans would rather, if you had to choose, they'd rather Miami be good than Florida, like, dominate them?
Yeah. But I think that's for most Florida State fans. But if you're the Florida State fan who lives in Hollandale Beach or lives
I get it.
We got to deal with these people. Captain D _63. Wake up, Aslan and Corey. As far as the point system you all use, I guess 93 would be the best, but I wonder why the 77 team didn't get a look. This was Coach Bowden's first or second recruiting class. In my opinion, this was the class that got FSU on the map, and this is what made people start talking about FSU on the upside. This was also the recruiting that beat the Florida Gators 4 years in a row. My first question is, our recruiting class is starting to shape up and moving up the rankings, so let's say for argument's sake that finishes this recruiting in the top 3 with our record last year. Do you think FSU might get the number 1 ranked recruiting class with a 9 or 10 win season?
No, I think Clemson.
They're not. Well, they're not involved with the guys that get you those rankings.
Right.
Yeah.
I think what happens with the 9 wins, what you're looking for this year again is top 8 to 10-ish, top 5 to 10-ish is what you're hoping for. And then I'm telling you, if you go on a run where you win 9 games, and I know we all roll our eyes because it's Florida State, you shouldn't call that a run. You shouldn't be excited about just 9 wins. But if you can show some positive momentum, I think the next year, the 2020 class, or 2021 class.
Yeah.
I guess this is the 2020 class they're recruiting.
Correct.
That's the one where you can really shoot for the stars, and all of a sudden you are in that upper echelon in that stratosphere with Clemson and Alabama, and you're recruiting with those guys. If you show some serious momentum this year, and to go back to the recruiting question, the point system, we did talk about. I wrote about, and I did grade the 77 class. They were just outside of the top 5, maybe 7 or 8. But I did mention we wrote about them. We wrote about the 77 and the 2010 class and the 1985 class as the 3 probably most important classes in Florida State history without being the best. Because 77 had Ron Simmons, had Keith Jones, Monk, Bobby Butler. I mean, it was a loaded class that led them to 2 straight Orange Bowls and really put them on the map, put Bobby Bowden on the map, and then set the stage for what they were going to do like a half decade later. But, yeah, man, that 77 class was really loaded. It had like 8 guys in that class that are now in the Florida State Hall of Fame. And that was his first class. That was his first full class. So the Bowden guy knew what he was doing. He was a pretty darn good recruiter.
It is pretty crazy when you think about the fact that the last time Florida State played football, they looked exceptionally bad, yet they're in the top 5 right now in recruiting. It's pretty crazy when you think about it. Maybe next time I talk to one of these kids, I'll be like, what do you – like, I don't want to say it in a way because then, Florida State fans are like, why down talking the program the recruits has on? But I do wonder, like, I asked Jayon McCluster about it from Largo. I'm just, because he even mentioned that people got in his ear about Florida State, Willie Taggart. They're not doing well, and they probably won't. But that didn't deter him. Like, it's really impressive when you think about the guys that they've got some verbal commitments from that have jumped on board. Because, listen, yeah, Manny Diaz, you can talk about Miami. Well, Miami's got a good recruiting class, and their season wasn't that good last year. But it's like, well, they got a new coach. They're selling hope, much the way that, Willie did going into the 19 class. It's crazy, man. It really is impressive. So we'll see how that goes. Second question, if Florida State continues to win and catches up to Alabama and Clemson, how many years do you think before Florida State gets their 4th national title and 4th Heisman winner? I know I'm being positive, but I believe FSU might be on the cusp of taking off with a couple good years and keeping our coach together for a few. What are your thoughts, guys? You all are awesome, so have a great day if you want to. We are at the 50-minute mark, by the way, Corey.
Well, and that's the first time in 50 minutes somebody's called us awesome, which is way too late in the show for that to happen. But we all agree. We agree with that. That's hard. I mean, that's really hard to predict about Heisman's and national championships. I think, again, it's got to be baby steps. We don't want to hear that. But it was baby steps with Jimbo, really. It was crawling, then baby steps, and then kind of a full-bore sprint within 4 years. And that's what you hope with here. I mean, we pointed out what Willie Taggart's having to take over and the problems that he inherited. But, after another year, that we can't use that as an excuse anymore. It'll be his program with his players. And so, you hope by 2021, 2022 that they're gonna be back in the conversation. They should be. I believe in this guy's ability to recruit enough that they should have a roster loaded with enough talent to at least be a 10 or 11 win team. Maybe not be with Clemson because it's Clemson, but they should still be in the conversation. And so you hope that happens, and then we'll see what they look like then. But it ain't going to be this year.
It's just not fair. I mean, when you really think about it, the fact that Fisher, it's crazy because in the moment it seemed like it was just like I said, I gave up on him to a large degree. I didn't want to get fired after the 2012 season, but I just kind of came to some sort of realization, like, listen, it's just not going to happen again. Price not going to win a national title, but I don't want to get rid of this guy because he's beaten Miami and Florida, and we are winning a lot of games, so I'm cool with it. But I'm kind of mad that we're never going to win another national title.
And then out of nowhere.
I mean, well, I don't. Yeah, I mean, yeah, to a large degree. I mean, with preseason ranked 13th or whatever.
They were 12th. They were 12th in the country when that season started. Yeah. Nobody expected. No Florida State fans were confident that 13 was the year. In fact, nobody was really confident until that Clemson game. Right. Then you're like, holy moly, what? Okay, this is an all-time team. But
just
until then, Florida State fans just weren't sold on it.
But I don't know. When you look back on it, though, it took him 4 years. That's incredibly impressive, and it's going to be really difficult, I think, for Willie to match that. And I don't think if by him not matching that, I don't think that makes him a failure. Not to me. I mean, maybe pundits will start doing that stuff. But when you really whittle it down, like, he's in a very unenviable position to a certain degree. I mean, he's obviously getting well compensated, and he's getting a lot of it's crazy, man. Soon though.
He's got an advantage and a disadvantage compared to Jimbo. I think Jimbo's disadvantage was that when he took over in 2010, it had been a full decade since Florida State had been kind of relevant nationally and played a national championship game. That was Winky's Heisman year. Well, the kids that he was recruiting were 7 when that happened.
Yeah.
Well, the kids that Willie Taggart has been recruiting were cognizant of football and remember Jameis Winston and remember the 29-game winning streak. Yeah. Most of them were in middle school. So they were old enough to know and remember Florida State being a brand. But I also think Jimbo had the advantage, obviously, of being there 3 years before, knowing what changes needed to be made, knowing what problems there were with the culture, and trying to clean that up. Willie walked in with no idea, I believe. No idea. Otherwise, why does he say in July at the ACC kickoff that, man, I thought there were going to be a lot of turds on this team? Turns out, no. Well, okay, well, that didn't prove out to be all that true. So I just don't think he had any idea what kind of culture problems there were when he took over. And so, like, Jimbo got to craft his own culture, basically, and build it from 2007 to the time he took over. Willie's having to completely reverse one in a short amount of time. But Willie does have the advantage of that 29-game winning streak and what Jimbo did and all those Florida State players like Jalen Ramsey and Derwin James and those guys that Jimbo recruited. Those guys are big names, and they're in the league. So Willie does get to use that at least. He's not trying to recruit off the backs of, like, I don't even know, Preston Parker. He or somebody like that, Lawrence Timmons. Like, he's getting to guys that are huge names in the league. He gets that cachet, in large part because of Jimbo.
Timmons had a good career.
Lawrence
Timmons had a good career, Corey.
I don't know why I said Lawrence Timmons. I don't even know why, because he was a good player. I was just trying to think of a guy from the lost decade, the middle of the decade that was good. But
like Everett Dawkins.
Yeah, I thought of somebody.
Like Everett Dawkins went second round, right? Like, I mean, maybe
Everett Brown. You mean? Yeah. Everett Brown. There you go. Somebody like that, or a Jamie Robinson.
Yeah. Jamie Robinson.
Willie has an advantage that all those guys in the NFL, they can sell the Florida State brand. Jimbo kind of had to rebuild the brand.
All right, here we go. I'm going to try to talk my answers are going to be very short and curt, not because of any disrespect to you folks. We really do love and appreciate the questions. Truly, it's awesome to look at this thread and see, dozens of questions from you folks. But
we have dozens of questions?
A dozen, maybe singular.
Oh, all right, let's go. Let's hear it.
Mr. Clutch _1992. 1993 was a solid class. Warwick Dunn is arguably the best on and off the field player to come through Florida State. Couple of suggestions for the show. Would like to know y'all's input. Keep Tinder Tuesday. Need more Brady time. A-Dog's crazy road trip stories. Favorite FSU football game you've ever watched / been to. I don't really like doing the Tinder Tuesday stuff because I feel like I'm obligated to go out on dates with girls and spend money that I don't necessarily want to spend on girls. But if you guys like it, we'll try to keep it going. We definitely do need more Brady time. Pops has got to get little man down to the Hassy more often.
I was thinking about
summer's coming around, so we can keep him up past curfew.
Yeah, he'll be there. He'll be there maybe in a couple weeks, 3 weeks maybe. But also, I think he's going to be in I'm going to have him because we're going to be leaving from Charlotte from the ACC kickoffs. We're going to be going to a little vacation to Cleveland.
That's right.
Because that's what people like to do in the summer, right? I don't know if you've ever been to Cleve in the summer, but it's a great place to summer. So after Charlotte, we're going to be going to Cleveland. So anyway, I think he's going to be up with me in Charlotte for the ACC kickoffs. And if we are like we were last year when we were doing interviews with people on Radio Row, maybe we get some Brady time there.
All
and
right.
maybe he can actually help us interview a player.
I'm in.
So that would be fun. My favorite, and we definitely need Tinder Tuesdays. I think the problem with our, I get a little uncomfortable with the Tinder talk, because you're talking, and it's just because it's my generation. Like, I'm older than you, and I never really did it. Like, I never went on a Tinder date, even when I was single, or a Bumble date. Stephanie was the only like Match.com date I went on, so that was a wrap. But
Well, good for you, Corey. I'm glad it
no,
worked
I'm
out
not
for
bragging.
you.
That's not a humble brag. What I'm saying is, it's weird for me to hear about you talking about multiple women at the same time. I know that's how that life works. That's how that lifestyle. That's what Tinder is all about. That's the Tinder game.
It's feminism, bro. They're equal. They've empowered themselves. This is what they're doing with their power
so
now.
it's like you talk about your Game of Thrones friend, and then you talk about this other girl, and it's like, oh, well, isn't that going to hurt the Game of Thrones girl's feelings? And not that I should refer to her as the Game of Thrones girls. You're obviously much more than that, but that's how Aslan referred to you. So that was what's like, I kind of cringed at that. And then I'm like, you know what? No, it's 2019. That's how Tinder works. That's like, you're not, exclusive. So anyway, that's why I cringed a little bit on our last Tinder Tuesday, but I really like Tinder Tuesday, and we get a lot of positive feedback. So with that in mind, by the way, 1991 at Michigan is my all-time favorite Florida State game. Aslan, do you have any Tinder stories of the last 6 or 7 days?
I do not. Actually, was driving back from Sarasota. I was talking to a girl on Bumble, and apparently there's a place called Tampa Bay Brewing Company out here, but there's one in Ybor City, which is in Ybor City, and there's one up in the burbs, kind of close to where my family's at. And apparently their signals got crossed, so the dude went to the one in Ybor City, and she was at the one by my parents' house. So she's like, can you come save me? I'm sitting at a bar by myself. So I went to the bar, and I had a drink with her.
Yeah. Just now? Like tonight?
Yeah. That's what happened.
All right.
That's what happened. What are y'all going to do when Thrones is over? Keep the train going, fellas. Go Knowles. I don't know, man. I don't know when Thrones is over. Maybe we'll start rewatching another show. Maybe we'll find out a show that both of us have never seen before, and we'll just start binging that, and we can talk about it. But
like Sex and the City?
Boom. Florida Cracker. Good morning, fellas. Although the use of a point system allows objective comparisons of different periods in history, other factors such as momentum, emotions, and the effect on the mood of rival fans and the national perception at the time are more difficult to quantify. In this regard, the 89 class is difficult to beat. That class perhaps is not as memorable for the later performances of the players as it is for how it showed the rest of the college football that the monster was being created down in Tallahassee. That after signing periods, one was just one huge player after another. Maybe few people remember now how highly touted Eric Terrell and Sterling Palmer were on the national level. They were coveted by everyone in the country, and most doubted we could get either. I'm trying to read this so fast because it's so long, but I'm going to stop. He talks about plucking away Matt Fryer from the Gators' backyard. That was a player that the Gator fans thought was going to stay in Gainesville or go to Gainesville. The fan base was devastated. And then you break George's heart when Charlie Ward commits to FSU. The fact that this also occurred at a time when national coverage of recruiting was just starting to become what it is today adds to the whole perception. To me, 89 should be remembered as the first one to induce real serious depression in our rival fan bases and to cause the rest of the country to realize the force that FSU was becoming. Florida Cracker, ladies and gentlemen. Give it up.
Yep, that was really well done. And that's true. That's something you can't quantify. Is like, look, Eric Terrell really basically started for 1 year at Florida State and then flunked out. Had a chance to catch a game-winning touchdown in that first wide right. He was interfered with to set up a field goal attempt, but it was also in his hands, and that would have been an all-time great catch. Anyway, Eric Terrell, he was from Leon or Godby. He was, I think, Godby maybe. He was from from Tallahassee. And by the way, his daughters are incredible basketball players.
So I've heard, yeah.
I mean, the one of them got hurt this year, so the other twin averaged like 38 a game. Just ridiculous. I've seen them play. It's pretty ridiculous because our friend Ira, his daughter plays locally too, so I've seen the Terrell twins play, and it's pretty remarkable. But and that's true. It's like the 11 class. Like, not all those guys in the 2011 class panned out, but the Jameis Winstons of the world and the Mario Edwards and Eddie Goldmans of the world, they saw what was happening in 11, And just like the 11 guys saw what was happening in 2010 and were like, oh, man, okay, this is real. Like, these are real players that are going to Florida State. I need to get on board. Like, it is okay to go to Florida State again. That's why people point to LaMarcus and Jeff Luke as being so pivotal to the turnaround of the program, because they were big-time guys that signed. And so, yeah, I agree with that with 89. I mean, you can't quantify that. Maybe Warwick Dunn doesn't happen without the 1989 class, or the guys that came in 93. Some of them don't happen without the 89 class. But again, just purely objectively, you had 5 first-round picks in the 93 class. You can't beat it. And you had 22 guys that contributed. 22 out of like 27.
Eric
and
Terrell,
they almost had Ray Lewis.
Eric Terrell went to Godby. Noel fan from South Florida. Hey, guys, wake up. Seeing these responses are mostly about the recruiting class list, I'll switch it up a bit to Florida State's newest 2-sport commitment. Say hypothetically if Malachi Wideman were to exceed expectations at both sports and around his junior year have an 800-yard, 10-touchdown season, which included a game-winning touchdown in a major bowl game, then turns around and helps lead the basketball team to a Final Four, and both the NFL and NBA were both intrigued with drafting him. If you were the kid's parents or were advising him, which league would you lean towards? Or would you flirt with both leagues, a la Kyler Murray? If only I were to hang out with Malachi Wideman and ask him this question myself. What would Malachi Wideman do if he's caught a touchdown in a national championship game and he's had a 1,000-yard season and he led Florida State to the Final Four? It's a good problem. Where do you think you would lean towards?
I think it would have to be situational. I think it would be I think I'd be in a situation where I have to make that call at that exact moment, because as of right now, I still want to play both of these sports as long as I can.
Would you rather hit a game-winning 3, or would you rather catch a game-winning touchdown in it? Like national title game, football touchdown, or like hitting a 3 or like dunking on somebody to win the national title in basketball?
I don't know if I have an answer for that one, because both would be amazing to do. And what would obviously be a crazy atmosphere, a national championship game or a Final Four game. Both would be just tough to make a crazy play like that in.
All right, so Malachi obviously has a future in politics once the playing career is over. I mean, you got to go to the NBA, right, Dad? I mean,
1,000%. Literally, I believe you can look it up as on while I talk. I'm pretty sure James Harden makes like $48 million this year. Like the salaries in the NBA are outrageous. So yeah, and it's not you can play 12 years. It's not as hard on the contracts are guaranteed, number one. It's literally no contest. If you're guaranteed of being a first round pick in the NBA and the first round pick in the NFL, 100 times out of 100 you take the NBA. And maybe you could try to play both, although I don't think they'd let you. And I think the difference between Kyler Murray, again, is Kyler Murray was a first-round pick in baseball. That's great. He was never guaranteed of playing a single inning in Major League Baseball. Not one. Not one. He could have been in the minor leagues for 7 years and decided to winky it back. I guess he could have gone back to football, but there was no guarantee he was ever going to play a second or inning of Major League Baseball. As soon as he's already in the NFL. Like he's already there. He's already at the top league now. So I think that's the that's the difference. And yeah, you definitely choose the NBA.
I'm trying to find who's the lowest paid NBA player.
It's got to be 500,000 or 600,000, right?
Nick Stauskas is the 400th lowest paid player, I guess, or he's 400th on the list of out of 438. Let me go to the bottom. Let me go all the way to the bottom. Let's use number. According to ESPN.com. Kendrick Nunn, a shooting guard for the Miami Heat. That's like a 10-day contract guy, like $4,000. Yeah, I mean, most people who play a full season are making $400,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So wasn't as aha as I thought it was going to be. He also says
what's Harden making?
Harden wasn't number one on this list. Steph Curry was number one on the list.
What's he making?
I think $37 million American dollars.
Okay, that's not bad. That's
no, I lied. It says he's – wait, hold on. No, that's Kyrie. I'm doing a really terrible job. I'm doing nothing. You really are carrying the show. I mean, that's really different. He was, $457,154.
Okay, that's not bad.
Harden, according to this, is making $30,421,000.
Man, I swear I thought he made, maybe last year he made 46 or something. I thought it was some crazy number because it was the last year of this weird salary agreement I don't know what the heck was going on.
How about Danilo Gallinari making $21 million? How about that?
All right, well that's not bad either, is it?
Jeez.
He's like an okay player.
Yeah. You play basketball. Let's see here what the other questions were. And in the meantime, as we've been recording the show, we've had another question come down. We're never going to leave. We're going to be here. I'm going to sweat to death in my old childhood bedroom that's got no AC flowing through it. He didn't mind the recruiting class list for the most part, but Corey, you had to include the 85 class just for Dion alone. Without him and his primetime persona, there's likely no dynasty era that helped usher in the recruits that were on that list. Everyone is entitled to their opinions, of course, but come on, man. Point system be damned. Corey already had his rebuttal to that. 85 was best of the rest, right, Corey?
Yeah, and we wrote about it. That was the first installment, was the classes that didn't make it. And 85 got a huge shout out because, again, we get it. You can't call it the best, though, because it wasn't. It was maybe the most influential. It was probably the most important because of Dion and Sammy and those guys, but it was not the best because, again, objectively, the 93 class was an incredible class with a ton of 14 NFL players, 16 NFL players, 14 draft picks, 5 first-rounders, 8 All-Americans. There's never going to be a class that tops it. But maybe, again, the point taken being maybe the 93 class doesn't happen without the 85 class. In fact, it probably doesn't. So I understand that point, and I take it.
How about this, Corey? The 85 class was the fumble Ruski. The 93 class was the touchdown catch by Kelvin Benjamin.
Perfect. There you go. That's perfect because they didn't win a title in 88, but it was a huge play and an all-time memorable play. But, yeah, you're right, Kelvin Benjamin. By the way, so, yeah, I don't know. So, Harden in 21-22. So, in 2021, he'll make $41 million.
Decent.
In 22, he'll make $43 million. And in 2023, he'll make $47 million.
I wonder who he's gonna vote for, so he doesn't lose all of his money to the tax man, right? That's gonna kill him, those taxes, right?
Yeah, man. Imagine only getting like 32 of your $46 million.
All those taxes. I mean, it penalizes you. There's no incentive to be a successful American anymore because of all the taxes, man. It's
sure.
Crazy.
So he's made $147 million in his career so far, and after from 4 years from now, he'll have made $316 million playing basketball. Now I know. We don't know that Malachi is the next James Harden, but the NBA is the play. Yeah. The NBA is the play, my man.
Knowles fan from South Florida also tells us that he doesn't mind the Game of Thrones talk. He does watch a show, but thinks it's a tad overrated personally, but it's a nice change of pace for a very dry offseason. Like the show as always, and go Knowles. You just like the show? That's it? Come on, man. Give us a little stronger
adjective. I appreciate that. We appreciate that, my man. South Florida in the house.
Game of Thrones is not overrated, man. It's awesome. Cleve Dog, FSU 22, Aslan, Corey, wake up, gents. Love the show. I listen to you guys every day. And yes, Corey, I go back in the podcast library and listen to the old shows. Corey, I love your quick wit remarks. And Aslan, you are funny. Believe it or not, but you guys would make a perfect comedy duo. I believe the 2020 class will go down as one of FSU's best recruiting classes. All right. I'll save that receipt.
Hope. Well, hey, and you know what? We're all hoping that.
Yeah, definitely. Big Steve-O 22, what up, guys? A couple weeks back, I asked the question about assembling your all-time Seminole team, pro and spread offense as well, and you guys kind of answered it since I have had limited posts, which I appreciate. No, Steve-O, I think we were running on a long show, and here you are again on another long show. So we love you. Don't think that we're short shrifting you at all, but let's see what else you have to say. Real quick, I just want to address the reason for my limited post. I've never been a message board type person. When I signed up to War Chant, it was due to the fact that you guys always post very interesting articles. Shout out Ira and Corey, Gene and Michael as well. I had no intentions to ask or post questions on the message board until I started to listen to the show. Awesome. Good. I can agree with the best overall class that Corey posted. I think other classes may have had more high school ranking star power, but we need and see how some of those teams and players have panned out. Question time. Here we go. Which Seminole team throughout history do you think was the most overrated and the most underrated? If you could think of one game that would validate your answer, what would it be? If it's too hard, how about the most overrated, underrated Seminole? After I make the statement, you may never read another post, but I have never seen Game of Thrones. I would usually binge watch a series when I would travel for work. I watch Breaking Bad in 1.5 weeks. That's not good. Don't do that, people. That show's dark. It'll wear on you. It did it to me. But I switch jobs and don't travel as often. It's still on the agenda, though. Props to my wife as she watches it on her phone so she doesn't spoil anything for me. That is true love, Steve-O. Good for you. I'm jealous. All right, most overrated, underrated Seminole team throughout history. Obviously, my history does not go nearly as far back or as clear and robust as Corey. You got to remember, man, I don't know. I mean, I can accurately, I mean, I don't even want to admit it, that I really can only remember probably like 2002 until now, which is terrible. Like I don't remember anything before I was age 20. Like I saw Adrian McPherson when we were in Sarasota, and I'm going to try to get him on the program. But like I don't even remember the whole fiasco with him. Like I do remember, but like I don't remember it all. So this is probably not a good question for me to answer, as I'm trying to stall time for Corey to save me and have a good answer. Most underrated Seminole team, I would say maybe we don't really appreciate 15 as much as I know they had a weak schedule, which is fair, but if Dalvin gets a first down against Clemson in the fourth quarter on 4th and 1, they lost 3 games. So you're like, they lost to Clemson, then they lost the bowl game against, Houston with a hurt Sean McGuire. Jimbo Fisher might have been in the playoff with Everett Golson and Sean McGuire, musical chair quarterback if Dalvin g's a 4th down there. So maybe the 15 team is a little bit underrated, or I would say maybe undervalued. Overrated, I don't know. I don't think there's any team that's overrated. I don't think so, Corey. Do you think there's any team that's overrated?
No, I've been running through my head as you gave me a lot of time there with that 2-minute soliloquy.
Sorry, 6-minute soliloquy guy.
It wasn't even a soliloquy because a lot of it was the question. So I apologize for calling it a soliloquy. You just have been talking.
What about 97?
To think.
Like everyone talks about 97 being the best team that never won a national title, but I don't know.
Man, I mean, they went 12-1, right? Yeah, and they lost in the final seconds at Florida.
Yeah,
a game they kind of dominated. No, that's not overrated. I can't think of an overrated one, honestly. I think they were all rated about correctly. They all the good ones finished in the top 5. I do think 2008 was close to being a pretty special year. If Marcus Sims doesn't fumble, I think they had another one. 2008. That had a chance to be a pretty, at least a 9 or 10 win team. But even still, I wouldn't say that was a great team in history that doesn't get credit. Underrated, 80. They went 10 and they had gone undefeated in 79, lost to Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl. The 1980 team was legit, lost 2 games total, both by 1 point. They both in the Orange Bowl. They lost to Miami 10-9 when a 2-point conversion pass was knocked down or batted down at the line of scrimmage. And then they lost to Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl 18-17 or 17-16 when Florida State dropped 2 interceptions on the final drive that would have clinched the game. That team was really, really close to being undefeated. And it really should have been playing Georgia in the Sugar Bowl instead of Notre Dame got to play Georgia. Anyway, I would say the 80 team, other than that, man, I think they're all rated pretty good. And as far as the players, there are a million underrated players. I've always thought Tay Cody,
yes,
his senior season in 2000 is
shut
about
down.
The best. And I watched Terrell, I watched Dion, I watched them all. Tay Cody in 2000 was as good as a college quarterback has ever been. It was just ridiculous. He made so many big plays and big moments, including causing a fumble against Miami that got them the chance to take the lead, which they did. And then, they gave it up there in the final minute.
Shocky.
But yeah, still, Tay Cody, I'll say Tay Cody is still, even to this day, even though he's a consensus All-American, is kind of maybe a little bit undervalued by Florida State fans. Marvin Jones. Nobody remembers him either.
We should just make this I want to just rebrand the show, the Corey Clark Show, and I'll just say, welcome to the Corey Clark Show. I'm not Corey Clark. Welcome in, Corey. And like, you should never say my name. Like, don't even.
What is this all about, man? This is the.
I am
our
so
chemistry.
aroused right now, Corey, by your institutional historic knowledge of Florida State. Really, the last 18 minutes have been an absolute joy. I mean, I'm not. It's crazy.
Don't use that word though.
Georgia Knowles 86. Wake up! Which scenario do you think happens faster? Jordan Travis waiver gets approved, or Wyatt Rector gets his waiver approved?
The Jordan Travis thing is just really bizarre. I thought he was going to say something about Wyatt Sexton. The Jordan Travis thing is, and by all means, man, I really do hope Wyatt Sexton gets some help. That doesn't seem to have been a really easy life since he left Florida State. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can Google it if you want or don't. But anyway, I don't understand what the deal with Jordan Travis. I just don't.
Yeah.
The kid had a legitimate reason to leave Louisville. Yeah. Papa John's is a racist. And it's
never forget.
Don't ever forget, man. It's there. It's right there. That was on his stadium. That was the huge benefactor of that school. Not only that, but Bobby Petrino apparently is not only not a great football coach, but is a pretty awful human being. And that's an Atlanta Falcons fan talking. So yeah, he had plenty of reasons to leave. And he needs to get that thing approved. I really don't think it's going to matter. I've said that before. I think the Hornswoggle is going to come in and be the second string guy right away. I don't think Jordan Travis will probably be asked to play much. But still, it'd be nice if we heard. It's been 3 months now? Still nothing. Meanwhile, what's his stick from Ohio State got approved in like 9 hours.
Right.
So who knows?
Hornswoggle, did he play for West Virginia? Wasn't that like a?
No, that was Pitsnoggle.
Pitsnoggle, okay.
Both of them. Hornswoggle, for the people that don't know, and it's probably 8% of you that recognize that last name. It was a character on Friends. Ross dated a girl with the last name Hornswoggle, and Chandler said, "What is she, a character from Fraggle Rock?" Which always made me laugh because I used to watch Fraggle Rock as a kid.
Of course.
And so that's why I say Hornswoggle instead of Hornibrook. It's it's a reference that nobody would really understand or get. But Pitsnoggle also sounds like a character from Fraggle Rock.
Looking at our roster, what position group is an area of concern this upcoming season? For me, Georgia Knowles 86, it's defensive end. We don't have a proven elite rusher on the roster.
Correct.
Yeah.
But the problem with what we have staring at us is that ain't the only position group that's a question mark. Right. I think we both think they're going to be better at linebacker, right? They're going to be more athletic, but nothing's really proven. Yeah. And then the same at offensive line, which is a bigger concern than even the defensive end. I do think also that the offensive line will be improved. It couldn't be worse, but it's got to be much better for them to have a good season.
Like I wonder what Randy Clements. I shouldn't even ask that question. We got to go. Cat Chaser. Morning, fellas. Is nobody a little bit interested in Wyatt? Big body, runs, good arm. His high school videos look intriguing. Jimbo was interested prior to injury. Why not any hype? Not even a little bit? I never even heard his name.
Talking about Rector, right?
Yeah. I never even heard of him as a recruit. I didn't even realize that Western Michigan, but wasn't he somewhere before? He jumped somewhere from I just don't know a lot about the kid. I should probably research. Maybe I'll do that when I'm driving to Orlando later today. But no, it's just the plan of succession at quarterback, or succession rather. Just I know I don't. I think it's James Blackman, man. It's Jimmy. It's all we got.
Yeah, and I just think also, man, you're talking about a guy that couldn't be the starter and stay the starter at, where did you say, Western Michigan?
Yeah, but if he was somewhere else between that, or maybe signed somewhere and ended up in Western Michigan, he's taking a circuitous route.
Sure, but you're talking about him. You're talking about a guy that wasn't going to win his job at Wisconsin and was not very good at Wisconsin, even though they won games. And then you're talking about a guy that couldn't get on the field at Louisville because he couldn't beat out Jawan Pass. So all these guys, sure, they have some talent. They're Division I quarterbacks, but it's hard to get excited about any of them because they haven't given us a reason to be excited about any of them. And I feel like we all think they're kind of stopgaps, like in case of emergency type quarterbacks. I think what you're hoping for is you go from Blackman to Sims. That's the bridge, but you don't know. You just don't know. So that's why. I mean, we just don't know enough about them, and we haven't seen them. We don't know how they compete at this level. So I don't know. That's it. That's the big reason. But nobody's here saying he can't do it. Nobody's here saying he's not going to be a good quarterback at Florida State. It's just hard to count on that. Like, there's nothing we've seen that would make you think that from his career, same with Jordan Travis, same with Hornswoggle, that makes you think they're going to be a big difference maker at a place like Florida State.
You know, sometimes they give you a little too much grief, Corey. I think like you don't want to. You're the nice guy out of this duo. Like, I don't mind people disliking me. I mean, I'd rather people like me than not like me. Who wants to be disliked? I don't believe you. But you do realize that at some point, Alex Hornibrook's going to arrive at Tallahassee, and he's going to know that the bald guy has been calling him Hornswoggle for the last 5 months. Like, you do realize that's going to happen, right?
What I'm really fearful of is that, number one, he wins the job, and then for the first 4 games, Ira has to go in and edit all my stories because I keep calling him Alex Hornswoggle, and Ira's going to get really mad at me. Please quit calling him Hornswoggle. That's not his name. So I hope I haven't talked myself into doing that. I don't know if I ever told you this.
Wait, real quick, Corey. Don't you also have to eat a whole crow if he starts and like wins a certain amount of games? I think there was a bet about you having to eat a crow.
I can't remember what I based that on, but yes, I did. Maybe if I said if he got him to a bowl, something like that. If he won 10 games, or if he was the starter and won 10 games, I would eat an entire crow, which I will. But, you know, the problem with the way my brain works is when I met Shanna, you remember the Seinfeld episode where the guy talked about himself in the third person?
No, I didn't watch Seinfeld.
Did you ever see that? It was like this guy, Jimmy likes Elaine. Jimmy wants to go out on Elaine. Right. And he just referred to himself in the third person all the time. Well, I started doing it as a joke, like around my buddies, like, Corey wants to go get some Taco Bell. Are y'all down with that? This was in college. Yeah. And then anyway, I ended up meeting Shanna, and I'm in that phase of my life where I continually refer to myself in the third person, to the point where she said it was really off-putting. And even though she thought I was funny and liked me, it was so weird that she almost didn't want to date me because I kept referring to myself in the third person. So I've done that enough with Hornswoggle now that I can't – it's hard for me to call him Hornibrook. Like, I've just tricked my brain that it's like the annals of history. I started doing that 15 years ago, and it's hard for me to go back to the real word, and I'm doing the same thing with Hornswoggle. So I'm going to – from here on out, it's Hornibrook. That's what I'm doing. Hornibrook.
There you go. Let's go into the annals of the Renegade Express mailbag. We've got 2 last posts. The Navy Knoll. And I think the Navy Knoll is one of the guys who literally signed up because he listened to the show. So,
all right, Navy Knoll.
Wake up, fellas. Do you know why there are only 8 men's but 10 women's sports at FSU? Is it because of the history of the university as a women's school? Doesn't Title IX play both ways so there's equal numbers for both men and women?
So the answer is Title IX means that you have to offer the same number of athletic scholarships to women as you do men. Well, the football team takes up 85 scholarships. So with that in mind, you have to go find those 85 scholarships at other sports. So that's why there's a volleyball team, a soccer team, a beach volleyball team. What else is there that
it's women only? I don't know.
It's women only. It's those 3 for sure. So I think track gets more scholarships. Women's track gets more scholarship. I think women's softball gets more scholarships than baseball. So you got to find those 85 somewhere, and that's the reason, is that you gotta put more women's sports out there because you need to equal the scholarship.
Oh, soccer. We didn't mention soccer, did you?
I did. If I didn't, I thought I did.
Oh,
but yeah, obviously soccer. So that's what they're doing, is they're trying to get the equal amount of the scholarships to the equal amount.
The reason I say that is because Navy Knoll also asks, what men's sport would you add to bring it up to equal the women? And for me, it would be men's soccer. I think, I can't imagine a major university in Florida having a Division I men's soccer team and not balling out. His vote is for lacrosse, which has been at the university as a club sport for a long time and been very successful. Also, it has gained much popularity in the Southeast, and a number of other ACC schools have very successful programs. What say you? What do you think?
I would think that would be my guess. I don't know what the scholarship numbers are for lacrosse at like Johns Hopkins and Maryland and Syracuse and the Duke and the teams that are really good at it. But that would be because I think that the lacrosse is a big deal in the South now. Like it's maybe I would assume the fastest growing sport in the South or in the country. But I know most of Brady's friends play lacrosse, so that's what I would like to see is lacrosse, and I think it'd be a fun sport to watch. I also would like ice hockey.
Yeah, I was about to say that it wouldn't work because of travel because there's nobody around here that's going to play, but that'd be awesome, man. Yeah.
Or curling.
Ooh, woohoo! Great show as always. I'm with Corey. The last episode of Game of Thrones was lame. 2 more to go. Lots to wrap up. The Hound versus the Mountain in a pillow fight. Who wins?
Would it be awesome if they did have a pillow fight?
I was thinking
I think the Mountain is going to win.
I think you're right.
That's how the Hound is going to get it.
Yeah, that makes me sad. But like, what is it going to be? Look, I don't want to see a 4-minute sword fight, but then I don't know, like, how do you kill one of them off? You know?
Yeah, no, I don't know. It'll be interesting. Hopefully.
Yeah. Last question. We made it. Let me look. I've literally started laying down because I'm so tired and it's so late.
And I've had to pee for 35 minutes. I'm literally shaking.
Okay. We're about an hour and a half. Dottie FH. Love the show. Curious, Corey. What route do you take to drive back and forth to Atlanta? Thanks.
Okay. You don't even have to answer that. What I do, Dottie, is I go up through Thomasville, through Moultrie, and then I take a right on, I guess is that 33? I go to Tifton, basically. I take a right after Moultrie to go to Tifton, and then I get on 75 at Tifton, and then I just go straight up 75. I used to know the back roads through Cordele in those places, but too many speeding tickets and too many deer. So I like to get on the highway as soon as possible. So I go Moultrie to Tifton and get on 75 there.
Corey, we made it. Did you see this, that Bobby Bowden threw up the U with Todd Stroud?
I did.
It's okay. We all make mistakes. I love you, Bobby. I'll always love you. And
it's just, I don't know that Jimmy Johnson would do the tomahawk chop.
Yeah.
Or the chop. Sorry, folks. I didn't mean to call it the tomahawk chop. That's the Braves thing. But I don't think he'd do the chop. But, Bobby Bowden did so much for this university, obviously, in this program, that we'll let it slide.
Fun fact, if you play this show and drive from Tallahassee, by the time it's over, you'll probably be in Portland, Maine. He's Corey. I'm Aslan. Have a great one.
WarChant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. WarChant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WarChant30. That's WarChant30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WarChant30. WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.